Behind the gilded curtains of the Principality of Monaco, an event of rare spiritual intensity has just shaken up the codes of royal protocol. Twins Jacques and Gabriella, heirs to one of the oldest European dynasties, crossed a sacred threshold today that will forever mark their princely destiny. This first communion, eagerly awaited for months by observers of the Monegasque monarchy, reveals a deeply intimate dimension of this royal family, usually so discreet about its religious traditions. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any European royal news. Share this video with your loved ones who are passionate about monarchies, and tell us in the comments what struck you most about this exceptional ceremony. Dawn broke on this historic day over the Cathedral of Our Lady Immaculate of Monaco, a true architectural gem nestled in the heart of the princely rock. The bronze bells resonated in the Mediterranean air with a particular solemnity, heralding a moment that extends far beyond the family sphere to embody the centuries-old continuity of the Monegasque Catholic faith. This cathedral, silent witness to so many royal weddings and princely baptisms, today welcomed the 10-year-old twins in their immaculate white robes, a symbol of purity and spiritual renewal. Jacques, the future sovereign prince of Monaco, and his twin sister Gabriella, entered the sacred edifice accompanied by their parents, Prince Albert II and Princess Charlene, in a procession of remarkable dignity. The young prince, dressed in a traditional alb embroidered with gold thread with the coat of arms of Monaco, wore a reverent expression on his face that betrayed the intensive spiritual preparation he had received. His sister, resplendent in her communion dress adorned with Calais lace, held in her hands a mother-of-pearl rosary that had belonged to her grandmother, the late Princess Grace. The ceremony, presided over by Monseigneur Dominique Marie David, Archbishop of Monaco, followed a time-honored ritual adapted to the specific characteristics of the sovereign family. The carefully selected audience included members of the Grimaldi family, representatives of the European nobility, and the closest collaborators of the prince's palace. This small gathering reflected the royal couple's desire to preserve the intimacy of this sacred moment, far removed from the usual pomp and circumstance of official Monegasque events. Emotion was palpable as the twins knelt before the Baroque altar, under the watchful eye of their parents. Princess Charlene, elegantly understated in her navy blue Philippe Tracy ensemble, could not hold back her tears as the Archbishop placed his hands on his children's heads for the final blessing. This public display of emotion, unusual for the South African princess known for her self-control, revealed the capital importance of this rite of passage in the spiritual education that she wishes to pass on to her children. Prince Albert II, heir to an unbroken Catholic lineage spanning centuries, witnessed the scene with a gravity tinged with paternal pride. His gaze never left his children, aware that this first communion officially marked their entry into the community of the faithful and reinforced their dynastic legitimacy. Beyond the religious aspect, this ceremony took on a subtle but real political dimension in a principality where the Catholic faith remains constitutionally linked to the exercise of sovereign power. Preparing for this first communion had mobilized the teaching staff of the Nicolas Barré Institution, a private Catholic school where the twins study, for several months. Father Jean-Marie Gelficci, the school's chaplain, had personally supervised the religious instruction of the young princes, teaching them the mysteries of the Eucharist and the foundations of Catholic doctrine. This training, given in French and Monegasque according to local tradition, allowed the children to fully understand the spiritual significance of their commitment. The 2-hour religious service featured Latin chants performed by the cathedral's choir, creating an atmosphere of intense reverence. Gregorian hymns echoed beneath the centuries-old vaults while incense perfumed the air, transporting the congregation to a transcendent dimension. Jacques and Gabriella actively participated in the various liturgical phases, reciting the prayers they had learned by heart and responding to the invocations with a confidence that demonstrated their meticulous preparation. The most moving moment of the ceremony was undoubtedly the First Communion itself. When Bishop David presented the consecrated host to the twins, a religious silence fell over the congregation. Jacques, as the heir, received the body of Christ first, followed immediately by his sister. Their faces expressed a mixture of solemnity and wonder that deeply touched those present. This gesture, repeated by millions of Catholics throughout the world, took on a particular resonance here through its dynastic and historical dimension. Princess Charlene was keen to personalize this ceremony by incorporating elements from her own South African family tradition. A Zulu chant, discreetly performed by a small choir, punctuated the final blessing, creating a symbolic bridge between the Grimaldis' Mediterranean heritage and their mother's African roots. This initiative, hailed by the Archbishop as a testament to Catholic universality, perfectly illustrated the royal couple's desire to provide their children with an upbringing open to the world. The attire for this day deserves special attention, as it reflects respect for traditional codes. Jacques' alb, crafted by the Lemaire workshops according to a pattern handed down since the 17th century, featured embroidery featuring the heraldic motifs of the House of Grimaldi. Every detail was carefully considered to respect religious etiquette while affirming the young communicant's princely identity. Gabriella's dress, an exclusive creation from the Monegasque house Rendina, combined tradition and modernity with its Chantilly lace sleeves and its discreet train adorned with the family crest. The logistical organization of this event required several weeks of meticulous preparation. The security service of the Prince's Palace, in coordination with the Monegasque Public Security Service, established a discreet but effective protection perimeter around the cathedral. The police, mostly in civilian clothes, blended into the background without disturbing the serenity of the religious ceremony. This discreet security demonstrated Monegasque expertise in protecting VIPs while preserving the authenticity of family moments. The reception following the religious ceremony took place in the private rooms of the Prince's Palace, transformed for the occasion into a setting of refinement. The palace's pastry chefs created a traditionally inspired communion cake, decorated in the colors of Monaco and adorned with religious symbols made of sugar art. This dessert, accompanied by savory petits fours and soft drinks for the children, was served in Sèvres crockery reserved for special family occasions. The guests, approximately 70 hand-picked guests, represented a cross-section of Monegasque society and the European aristocracy. Among them were several members of European royal families, including some cousins of the young communicants, creating a warm atmosphere despite the strict protocol. The conversations, conducted in French, English, and Italian according to the guests' linguistic affinities, naturally focused on the shared emotion during the ceremony and the promising future of the royal twins. The media dimension of the event had been carefully calibrated by the palace's communications department. No media was allowed to enter the cathedral during the religious service, thus preserving the family and spiritual intimacy of the moment. Only the official photographer of the princely family was authorized to immortalize a few select moments, in full respect of the liturgical solemnity. These images, released a few hours later, revealed the beauty and authenticity of this first communion without betraying its private nature. The impact of this event extends far beyond the borders of the Principality of Monaco to all observers of European monarchies. This first communion is part of a coherent educational approach pursued by the royal couple, combining Catholic tradition and modern openness. It foreshadows the education that Jacques and Gabriella will receive for their future responsibilities, blending spiritual formation and preparation for sovereign duties. The religious instruction provided to the twins will naturally continue toward confirmation, the next step in their Catholic journey. This perspective is in keeping with the Monegasque princely education, where faith constitutes a fundamental pillar of personal and institutional formation. The choice to maintain this tradition, in a European context marked by secularization, testifies to the Grimaldis' attachment to their spiritual and cultural roots. This first communion also reveals Princess Charlene's subtle evolution in her role as mother and princely wife. Her emotional presence during the ceremony, her involvement in the spiritual preparation of her children, and her ability to integrate her own cultural traditions into Monegasque protocol demonstrate her full appropriation of her role. This institutional maturity, acquired after more than a decade of princely life, is reflected in the balanced education she provides her children. The future of the young communicants promises to be rich in challenges and responsibilities. Jacques, the future sovereign of Monaco, will have to reconcile traditional heritage with adaptation to contemporary issues, while Gabriella will build her princely identity in a role of dynastic support. This first communion symbolically marks the beginning of their conscious preparation for these future missions, in a spirit of service and spiritual commitment that has characterized the Monegasque monarchy for generations. As the echoes of this exceptional ceremony still resonate within the centuries-old walls of the Cathedral of Our Lady Immaculate, a fundamental question arises for all of us, privileged witnesses of this historic moment. How will these young princes, nourished by tradition and open to modernity, be able to embody tomorrow the spiritual and temporal values that make Monaco great? And what imprint will this first communion leave in their hearts when they in turn take the reins of the Principality?